I mean, it's so profound to hear you put it this way. It sounds so personal and so strategic and so evidence-based. I mean, it make as a fan of the game, it makes me sort of happy to see that you've taken that approach in this role. And just like you're saying, I think there's a lot here that applies not just to players and docs, but really just the average person walking around navigating life. So if you could, I would just love to hear a little bit more about how you incorporated this also into your book. Because I think really anyone watching or listening should be picking this up, immediately.
Yeah, once we get off, give me your snail mail address and I'll sign and send a copy. But again, going back to the basics, to me, things have to be simple. And it struck me that the burnout equation, and it's a huge issue. I've talked to Christina Maslach numerous times about that. Tate Shanafelt, you may know at Stanford, previously at Mayo. He and I are working on a paper right now about burnout in healthcare leaders as opposed to providers. But to me, it had become too complex. And I'm always interested in something that a person at the bedside can put to work in terms of how do we do this. And so to me, taking that definition of saying burnout is simply a ratio of job stressors divided by adaptive capacity / resiliency. And adaptive capacity equals resiliency, use either term that you want. When job stressors are too high or adaptive capacity is too low or some combination, what happens? Christina Maslach was right. 3 symptoms: emotional exhaustion, cynicism or depersonalization, and a loss of meaning at work. And so it's a logical formula to me. It's a very simple formula. We say, well, we're going to survey for burnout. What are you going to look for? Well, you're going to look for emotional exhaustion, cynicism and depersonalization, and a loss of meaning at work. Someone says, I don't feel like I make a difference anymore. Well, I got a pretty good idea where that goes. Burned out. I'm so burned out. Well, that sounds like exhaustion to me. You know what? I don't even care about my patients anymore. Sad to say, we do hear that, or that day. What they really mean is that day.
Right.
And so if you take that and look at it, and you start to say, what are the factors which comprise it? There's 3. Culture of the organization. Is there a culture for passion? Come back to that in just a second. And resiliency. And number 2, I call it hardwiring flow, probably because I wrote a book called Hardwiring Flow, but it's systems and processes. Are they smart systems and processes? So stop doing stupid stuff, start doing smart stuff. And as you know, we do a lot of stupid stuff in healthcare. Total waste of stuff. Yeah, I mean, do you work for the EHR? Does the EHR work for you? Simple. Yeah. So those 2 comprise the organizational resiliency piece. And then the final part is the issue of personal passion and resiliency. And there are tools around that, one of which you might guess is deep joy, deep needs. If you haven't discovered it, rediscover it. Did you stay true to it? And that, of course, is personal resiliency. But all 3 have to be dealt with if we're going to be serious, because every person is a leader. Lead yourself, lead your team. Every person is involved in a cycle of performance, rest, and recovery, because the job is exacting enough, that's extracting enough, that we have to have recovery to be able to do it. And the third is the work begins within. Don't wait for the organization to fix the culture. And hardwiring flow, work on yourself, work on personal development and leadership. And the organizations that have been most successful, Novant is one, Duke is another, Wellstar, Nova, Brigham and Women's, and all these are chapters in the book under other voices to say, how did people do it in real life?
Right.
Have invested in the person. Instead of saying, I want you to go to this conference because I want to get better metrics out of you. Well, thanks. I mean, because I'm fungible. I mean, that sounds like if I'm fungible, and if I don't get my metrics up, somebody else will. Instead of saying, the ones that have been successful have all said, it's about you. We want to help you become the best you that you can and maximize your potential. You know what? If we get better metrics, fine, but that's not why we're doing it. And so I think organizations are going to move quicker and quicker. And I'm sorry, that was a lot longer than you wanted, but
no.
Yeah, it's a passion reconnect. It's reconnecting to that deep joy and deep needs, that sense that I have meaning at work because I signed up for work that's meaningful to do. I
Mm.
love it. I believe in it. I know it's going to extract a cost, but here's how I'm going to maximize my potential. We do there's 22 different tools for battling burnout. One
Mm.
is called love, hate, tolerate, and sit down with your staff, sit down with your partners and say, what do you love? Write it down, talk about it,
Mm.
maximize it. Okay. What do you hate? Because there are things you hate, like I hate. EHR might be one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, eliminate it to the extent that you can. Well, how
Mm.
can I eliminate the EHR? Well, you can't eliminate it maybe, but you could have a scribe. You
Mm.
could spend less time in front of the computer and more time creating value in front of the patient.
Right.
And number three, what do you tolerate? I mean, things you just have to do. And let's see if we can move the EHR from the hate line to the tolerate line
Mm.
and make it work for us instead of us working for the EHR. So simple things like that. But most people feel like, give me a tool, give me a tool.
Right.
And so we provide 22 tools in there.